you've talked to me before about doing Strachan and Bayern, and I'm interested. Your first summer at Leeds, so you came in October '88, so you come through to '89. You got Gordon Strachan, you got Chris Fairclough, and a couple of players. What was that first summer like? Because there was quite a deal of changes you brought in, but there were some players left. Just talk me through that first summer in the context of what you just said.
Well, as usual, they were back probably earlier than most of. And given that as a starting point, what you've got to do, although you're not thinking about it at the time, what you've got to do is get them to understand there's a rationale to what we're doing.
Yeah.
And part of that is education. And we have moved on. But I did learn in those early days that what I'd done as a player at clubs was what was thought was right at the time.
Yeah.
But things move on, understanding increases, sports science gets better, and these factors have all got to be taken into account with regard to, so one of the first things I picked up was the notion of oxygen debt. That unless you understand what that is and what effect it has, you can't be as good as what it is you're trying to do, which is get them fit, as you think you are.
Just tell me a bit, because I've never heard the phrase before, oxygen debt. What does that mean?
They're pretty single terms. We're all dependent on our breathing.
Yeah.
And so, I'm trying to find an analogy which simplifies it all. It's understandable. You've got a car and you put petrol in it.
Yeah.
And part of running a car and the cost, etc., blah, 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 will depend on petrol consumption.
Yeah.
And one of the basics about petrol consumption is going from 0 mile an hour to 80 mile an hour in 100 yards, because you want to be Sterling Moss, ain't the best way to get a good petrol consumption if the cost of petrol matters to you.
Okay.
So, oxygen debt is trying to increase their ability to sustain and deal with that. And it's better if they understand what you're doing and why.
Yeah. And talking about again.
So it's the difference between, if I think right back to my early time as a player, 18-year-old, running around the track. But then you move on and it's no, because training's got to be training for a particular activity has got to be as specific as you can get it. So in terms of football, what then was the answer, deemed to be the answer, which was shuttles. But also, in order to perform better with the shuttle, you've got to have developed a sustained endurance, the capacity to sustain your endurance. So all those things, until nowadays, of course, if you're sitting down today talking to a coach or a manager or the club's person responsible for physical fitness and so on, there'd be all sorts of other issues to be considered.
Okay.
And in particular, the difference between individuals.
And talk about that. That's really interesting. Difference between individuals and fitness. So again, one of your first incomings that summer with Vinnie Jones, and there's talk about if you believe everything you read, he sorted the dressing room out, and you expected him to. Just tell me. I know we've talked before about Vinnie and how he was misunderstood and all that type of stuff, but just talk me through what the reality was of that. Would players have left of their own accord anyway, or was it something you actively look to change and move on?
I think if a player, it's a bit like going to work.
Yeah.
You've got to work in an office, and you can't put up with what the boss is wanting you to do, and then there's other people in the office who are also got views and opinions which are slightly different. Then you're not going to enjoy working in that office.
Yeah.
So, whilst we're all different, and the job of the manager is to look at those differences, but also look at the demands of the game, and try to, in preparation, tinker with what it is different people do. A bit like a good chef.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
Okay. And one of the key moves in the transfer market, etc., would have been Bill Fotherby, because he seemed to be the deal maker. You'd give him what you were looking for and he'd go away and do it. But there is this talk about Bill often wanted to have more influence than most. And I read somewhere once that you were used to dealing with the chairman. So at Sheffield Wednesday it would have been Bert McGee, and it was with Bill. It was almost like he was in between you and the chairman for a bit. And, that took a bit to settle down. I think it did eventually, but do you want to just talk me through what that was like? Because Bill often did that. You tried to do something similar with George Graham when he fell foul off the back of that, but just talk me through that.
No, I mean, Bill was, he was a good bloke. His intentions were good, his thinking was good, and what he wanted to see was good. He wanted to see Leeds United being a more successful club. And yes, he did enjoy it. He did enjoy that role that he had, because he was good at interaction with people. He could, him and Leslie were totally different personalities, but together they were a team. Leslie understood that, and Bill understood it. Without, I don't think he sat down and thought about it.
Yeah.
It just happened. But that's it. That's life. Maybe it don't matter as much if I'm working in an office or whatever.
Yeah.
But if somebody says we're a team means we are a group of people who have a common objective, and we all have different qualities that contribute towards attaining that objective.
Yeah. Now, how soon was it before you really appreciated Bill's real qualities? Because as I said before, I understand it was a bit about, it felt like you were at distance from the chairman, but over a period of time that really developed and you speak really highly of him. How long did that take to get into that?
Well, Bill was like, tell me what you want and I'll try and get it.
Yeah.
That was, whether he was always like that, I don't know, but between him and me, it was like that. Tell me what you want and I'll try and get it. You had to give him good reasons for what it was you were thinking about, which is great. Somebody's going to sit down and listen because you won't buy in. And he was also, when he came here and about the job, I was like, do me a favour and so on and so forth. But that changed as I talk, he listens, and then he talks and I listen, and eventually you go, I don't know.
Okay.
I think I might have got this wrong. Yeah. Oh, right. Until you finish up. and he was his emotional intelligence was good. So one, he was intelligent. Two, he was from humble roots.
Yeah.
Three, he'd been successful in business. And along the way, he'd honed his skills.
And you told me about a story about you talked to him about trying to increase the atmosphere, and you went away and got the mics in the stand. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Again, it was about winning games, and obviously, you go to Hampden Park, and there's 125,000 in. You've got an atmosphere, but you can't always play in Hampden Park. What you can do is try to create, through performances on the pitch and through other things as well, create a situation where you're maximising what is happening up there. So, yeah, to me, it just seemed, if you play a game and all you hear is a and then 6 weeks later you do the same thing, and what you hear is wow. It just, it gives the players, because they want wow.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah.
Maybe on a cricket pitch.
Yeah.
But on a rugby pitch or a football pitch or whatever, that background there, and it can be negative. Of course it can. Because they can shout right, or they can shout shy.
Yeah. But was that right? He hung microphones in the stands just to pick that up and amplify.
Well, I suggested, and he straight away, yeah. Oh, good idea.